Hello everyone, it's the Clown Decade. The decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And once again, because our side of Twitter has exploded over some drama again about Rupert Lowe and about Nigel Farage, it's up to me to once again go through it with as much of an unbiased lens as I can muster. So the BBC released this yesterday. Reform UK row, leaked messages revealed Farage fury with Lowe. And right off the bat, I've got to ask again, why is the online right and the mainstream media coalescing around an attack on Farage? This is the opposite of what usually happens. Why is someone leaking messages with Farage to the BBC? This is not something you see from a typical right-winger, is my point. Anyway. So Farage called the behaviour of suspended Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe disgusting and contemptible in private WhatsApp messages seen by the BBC, and I largely agree. I'm basically at the point where a reaction to a character assassination is... we're kind of beyond that point. It seems clear to me that Rupert Lowe's whole idea from the beginning here was to attack Reform UK. I am trying to be unbiased there, I do promise you. He's been going on about this for more than a week now, and the attacks largely haven't subsided and do not come from any sort of different angle. It's a lot of parroting of Ben Habib's issues, blah blah blah, I've been through all this before. In the messages that were sent after Lowe criticised the Reform leader in a Daily Mail interview, Farage accused him of damaging the party just before elections. Reform has always denied that there was any connection between Lowe's suspension and his criticism of the party. In the Mail interview on 5 March, Lowe called the Reform a protest party led by the Messiah, and he was suspended on the 7th of March and reported to the police over claims that he had made threats of violence against party chairman Zahir Yusuf, which are still being investigated. Reform said it has also received allegations of bullying in Lowe's MP office. Lowe strongly denies all the allegations, and then he went over to Dan Wootton's show to explain that the bullying incidents had occurred. They were basically nothing according to him, but they had been investigated before. So it's very odd that he denied the bullying charges and then go through the evidence on Dan Wootton's show. This is exactly why when you're being investigated you do not do interviews and do not make statements on the thing, because it only damages you and your position. He has since accused Farage of malicious witch hunt that's being motivated to remove me because I dared ask questions. Whereas as I went through in the Daily Mail interview, no, you're just directly attacking the party in that interview. And he's been, frankly, damaging the party in other ways too. Going against party line, saying things that Reform think are a bit too far for the public at the moment. You know, at the end of the day, they're trying to win elections. Policy comes later. Policy comes when they've pretty much got the election in the bag. You know, that's 3 years down the line. What's the point in having policy if you have no chance of getting power? So Lowe obviously says that the Reform leadership has no integrity and Nigel Farage must never become Prime Minister. We'll go through that larger statement after I've gone through this article. And Farage told the BBC the suspension was to protect the party. Simple. The newspaper attack on Reform UK is separate but dreadful. He's previously insisted that the party was duty-bound to look into any allegations of wrongdoing, which it is. It is actually by law. Reform's deputy leader Tice previously told the BBC there was absolutely no truth in the claim of a link between the decision to suspend Lowe and the allegations being made public. Again, if you look at every other party, the allegations are made, whips are suspended, it's standard procedure. A series of messages between Farage and someone who worked for Lowe in recent years reveals Farage's personal anger with Lowe about his comments in the Daily Mail. In one message, Farage... well, we'll go through the messages now. But I will say it's interesting they are making the point that he is talking about the comments on the Daily Mail, because I'm a little bit sceptical of this. So here's the first set of messages. Why on earth wouldn't they let the KC finish her investigation? She is horrified. I'm pleading with you. This is effing madness. To which Farage says, because he is damaging the party just before elections. Disgusting. Now, again, there's no timestamps on this. All we have is a source. Fine. We know that's Farage. I believe that this was a real conversation is what I'm saying. My point is, I don't know exactly when these messages were sent. I don't know who they is referring to. We are going to assume Zahir Yusuf and Lee Anderson. I want to point out that this is someone who worked for Rupert Lowe. She is claiming the KC is horrified. We know for a fact that the KC was not horrified. She had to come out with statements saying that isn't true, which leads me to believe that the person who was leaking these messages was effectively once again being an envoy for Lowe. And so after Farage says he's damaged the party, the source says, right, so it's not about the investigation then. And Farage says, of course it is. Beyond that, he's contemptible. Thousands of people working hard for May the 1st. And so the source asks why not let it finish before it goes public, to which Farage replies, the KC inquiry was the right thing to do, no question. Reputation of the party must be protected, which I'm taking as if we kept it secret and this stuff was leaked, it would be way more damaging than effectively being proactive on it. Which, as I say, you look at the way every other party works, it seems to be standard procedure. Now, was Farage necessarily referring to the Daily Mail here? I have no idea. As I say, I don't know when these texts were actually sent. The BBC only say, oh, this happened after the Daily Mail. Well, was it a week after? Was it hours after? Who knows? But this worker of Lowe saying the KC is horrified, we know that's not true. So already, yet again, this is a very untrustworthy source. The second load of texts say, obviously you just think the Mail piece was damaging and this is just a response to that. I think you should have the courage to admit it. And Farage says, we are certainly damaged and within 2 weeks of nominations. Awful. Which I think everyone admits that the Daily Mail piece was damaging. I think even Rupert Lowe admits that. But again, you can't then conclude from this that the allegations are fake, the threats are fake, and therefore it's a political attack and a character assassination. We don't know yet. We need to let the investigations conclude. So this is why you did it, that's insane. No, it's a side issue, but in 30 years I've never seen anything worse. Disgusting. So it's clear to me that even in private messages, Nigel Farage is holding the line that in fact the allegations, well, they are to be taken seriously, and that is why the investigation is happening. So as I'm concerned, looking at these texts alone, we really don't know anything more than we already knew. We already knew Farage was incredibly irate at Rupert Lowe for attacking the party in the Mail piece and for other things that he has done in the past, like going against party line, saying the very vague words like remigration and mass deportation when the reform line is be very, very specific in your language on this. And he's ignored it. And actually, looking into the whole thing with the history of Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, this isn't the first time that he's, well, gone against the party. Back in 2019, Farage had to apologise to the people of Dudley North after ex-Saints chairman, Southampton chairman, and Brexit Party MEP Rupert Lowe pulled out as the candidate at the 11th hour. The Brexit Party leader said his respect for Lowe has gone completely after he confirmed his withdrawal from Dudley North as Thursday's 4 p.m. nomination deadline passed. The former Southampton FC chairman's actions prevented the Brexit Party fielding a replacement candidate in the seat, which Ian Austin won for Labour by 22-vote margin in 2017. Farage said it was disgusting behaviour and his respect for Lowe has gone completely. What he probably hasn't told you is that he met a senior official from Number 10 in the middle of last week, somebody quite close to Boris, and this was obviously a stitch-up. If he made a decision, he went and changed course, he's entitled to it, but to let everybody else down in the 11th hour, dreadful behaviour. Shocking. It's not the first time Lowe has shown behaviour of going against the party and trying to act a lot more independently. Now, if you want to do that, I guess that's fine, but if you're going to act independently, you're going to end up as an independent MP. The thing about party politics is that it's party politics. You have to act as a party an awful lot of the time, especially when the whip is enforced. And if you have issues, you do it behind closed doors. And at the end of the day, if you're at an impasse, obviously the party leader's going to win. If you then openly attack the party, I don't know what else you'd expect, apart from being frozen out and eventually pushed out of any sort of leadership roles. Now, the problem with Lowe is that, as he's admitted on Dan Wootton, not necessarily the threat allegations, he's obviously denying them and not giving much information on that. However, as far as I know, both parties have admitted that letters came to reform, and so there are bullying allegations that have been made about Rupert Lowe not following and complying with his legal duty of care, and so it's being investigated by reform. We know that part's true at the very least. The threat stuff, we'll have to wait and see on. We know there's an investigation going on at the moment, and so from what I can see, this was somewhat just opportunism from Reform's side. Oh, we got these things last Friday, let's see what we can do about it internally. No, that's not happening. Right, public, right, whip lost, right, let's see what he does. And, well, he ends up posting stuff like this whenever you have vague text messages from your own team sent to the BBC, which again, no one on the online right seems to think's a bit odd. So, in messages uncovered through a BBC investigation, in It was someone from your own team, Rupert, that's all I'm saying. Nigel Farage personally admitted the real reason why you removed me from Reform. It was because I raised reasonable and constructive criticism about Reform structure, policy and communication in the Daily Mail interview. That's not what he said, though, is it? He said that's a side issue. That is why they have tried to disgracefully ruin my reputation. Full statement below. Alright, let's have a read. So, my goodness, this is biblical. These messages from Farage himself, uncovered through a BBC investigation, prove that he kicked me out of the party and launched this malicious witch hunt because I dare to ask reasonable questions, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not what it says. We've just been through the text. That's not what was said. He was directly asked why I was removed before any investigation, and therefore about the reason behind my expulsion from the smear campaign, and his response was that he is damaging the party just before elections. Disgusting. Again, not necessarily referring to the Daily Mail article. We don't know when those messages were given out. Were the messages sent, I don't know, 2 days ago? Were they sent a week ago, 2 weeks ago? Who knows? As I say, nobody's under the illusion that there was no political opportunism here. That obviously there's opportunism here, but again, I don't really know what you expect when you launch direct attack on the leadership of the party. This is standard procedure in every party. Hell, a load of Labour MPs have lost the whip for going against party lines in votes in Parliament, in the media. It happens everywhere. But as I say, Rupert Lowe admits that the letters were real and that there were bullying complaints in his office months ago. We know it's real, so it's kind of ridiculous to say that these are trumped up charges. The Zara Yusuf thing we're still waiting on, sure, but the bullying allegations in his office, we know that's real, even from Rupert Lowe himself. Read the BBC investigation for Farage's words and make up your own mind. Thank you, I have. I don't know why you'd say that after you already give your opinion on it, but okay. I am horrified that this has been allowed to happen. These messages unquestionably prove that Reform leadership is zero integrity. I don't agree. And have no faith in their investigation being conducted in a fair manner. But it's an independent KC. And also, it's interesting how now he's trying to throw the KC under the bus here, actually. Lee Anderson directly said, can you stop publicly questioning the integrity of the KC? That's really bad for your reputation, the KC's reputation. And yet he's just done it again, and I think he's trying to do that to try and tarnish her name because she's already had to correct him once. And I would not be shocked if she has to correct him again. Just read the timeline. Interview took place on the 25th of February, according to you, yes. On 26th of February, Farage's team were made aware of the interview. On 27th of February, a vexatious complaint was raised and escalated with Reform. We don't know if... You said it's not vexatious. You admitted that they were real. Roughly a month after the complaints claim, they informed Parliament. On February 28th, I received the first letter about the allegation from Anderson with no warning. Another strange coincidence, it seems. No, that would make sense. If they were made aware the day before, I'd expect within 24 hours you would be made aware of this investigation that is going to be put forward. That doesn't seem like a coincidence at all. That seems like... that actually helps with Reform's timeline. I mean, I'm wondering how Farage's team were made aware of the interview. I know the interview happened in Parliament, so obviously through the grapevine I imagine he would hear about that. But what, you think Farage's team asked people to send in complaints to the party? Maybe, I guess. I don't know. I am not a Reform MP. My staff are not Reform staff. I will not be engaging with the Reform investigation into blatantly vexatious complaints made by former employees who both admitted serious offences and were going through the disciplinary process regarding this misconduct before any of their issues were raised. It's interesting we're going through all this because a big complaint made by the Reform side is, oh, Rupert Lowe's not engaging with the investigation. And now this is Rupert Lowe saying, I'm not engaging with the investigation. So again, this is making Reform side of the story seem even more true and even more trustworthy. There is no credible evidence of any bullying by anyone because there was none. Again, you claim the KC said that multiple times and the KC had to come out and say, no, I didn't say that. Now, that doesn't mean there is evidence against him. Fair enough. However, I would definitely stop saying there's no evidence against me when I was literally told by the KC not to say that. This has been weaponised in a desperate attempt to smear my name. I kind of have to say at this point, I was putting off saying this for quite some time because I don't think it's a particularly strong argument, but, you know, it's been nearly 2 weeks now. I'm sorry, but Rupert Lowe is protesting an awful lot. There is such a thing as the lady doth protest too much. And every little thing that comes out, there's this massive 20-paragraph statement from Rupert Lowe denying everything and attacking reform yet again. And now, from people I've been talking to in DMs who have been through disciplinary actions similar to what Rupert Lowe's been going through, they actually make the point that in their experience, the people that effectively try and get the public on their side, or people, within the organisation on their side, typically they're the guilty party. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily means Rupert Lowe is guilty. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that this is something that has been at the back of my mind, and the more it goes on, the more it's coming to the front of my mind. If I'm contacted by the parliamentary authorities, I will fully cooperate with them. I have heard nothing from any relevant parliamentary body, nor of my team. I thought the parliamentary HR department, whatever you want to call them, already did their investigation on this. The problem is that Reform have now been made aware of it, and they have to deal with it as well. So he's probably not going to be contacted by the parliamentary authorities, but not going along with the Reform one, probably not great. I will not work with the rotten and deceitful Reform leadership. Their disgraceful actions have put my honest and decent team through hell. They have handed my employees to damage me. If Reform continues to harass my staff, trust me, there will be legal consequences. I will personally see to that. He keeps saying he's going to lawyer up, and I've still not actually seen it. Then again, these things take time. Farage has admitted himself that the motivation behind my removal was the Daily Mail interview. No, he didn't. In which I raised reasonable and constructive questions of reform structure. No, it was just a direct attack on the party and leadership, following months of pushing for change behind the scenes. That interview is why they designed and launched their horrific smear campaign against my name. It is evil behaviour. Again, I need to bring it back to what I've talked about in the past. This is exactly the type of narrative that Ben Habib told Rupert Lowe to create, and I'm not buying it until the investigations have concluded. Again, an awful lot of what I see is a direct attack on reform, coming from an awful lot of people who have axe to grind with Nigel Farage. Rightly or wrongly, it doesn't particularly matter, but another thing that everyone seems to be missing is that pretty much every mainstream source is attacking reform at the same time. It's all coalescing around them. And I'm being told that Rupert Lowe is the anti-establishment candidate. I'm sorry, his own team keep leaking things to mainstream sources. And they're not very good leaks, I have to tell you, but then they're trying to use what little they can to keep their narrative going. But as I say, he changes his story every statement, and the past 2 weeks from Rupert Lowe has all been narrative creation. The whole thing's been a narrative creation, and nobody seems to realise that and then question the holes in the story. And as I say, every time I bring up that the KC has had to say that Rupert Lowe misled the public with her own comments, that should be ringing sirens in everyone's brains, but everyone is still firmly on Rupert Lowe's side. And I think it's getting to the point where even if it turns out Reform have trumped up all these charges, Rupert Lowe does not come across as good. As I say, Ben Habib keeps giving the game away. He's been in contact with Rupert Lowe for ages, and wouldn't you know it, he's come out for another parallel attack at the same time. Text message from Nigel Farage, confirm why he mounted an attack to destroy Rupert Lowe. Quote from the BBC, in one message Farage says Lowe is contemptible. When asked by activist, who is not currently a party member, why Reform had not allowed a lawyer to complete an investigation before suspending him, Farage said, because he is damaging the party just before elections. Disgusting. Again, it doesn't go into the further context of when asking for clarification, Farage says, no, he's being investigated because he has to be, because it's the duty of Reform to, and this is all a side issue, and just explaining to you why I'm annoyed with him. Again, we don't know the full context of the conversation. We've got two very specific snippets, and I would like to see more of the conversation, if I'm frank with you. And so Ben Habib doubles down, saying it's all to do with Rupert challenging Farage, which, even that by himself, yeah, your own MP should not be challenging you in public. That is basic. And in fact, of all people, Henry Bolton, who wasn't exactly helpful to the UKIP party back in the day, even had something to say on this. So while it may have been unwisely done, Ben, what would you do if one of your senior staff members started criticising your business in front of your clients and customers? And again, I think criticising is underselling what Rupert did. I don't think Rupert has or is covering himself in glory over this. He tried changing things internally, seemingly failed, and should perhaps have just stepped away if he found the situation intolerable. Yeah, he probably should have done. This entire mouthing off that he's been doing for the past 2 weeks does not reflect well on him. I've been saying for weeks at this point that he's been acting incredibly unprofessionally, and Reform's only comments on the whole thing really are direct responses to Rupert Lowe or direct responses to questions from the media. And even the other day, Farage was just refusing to answer questions on it from the Telegraph. They asked him about 3 and he just kept ignoring them because he wants to talk about other things because he's trying to win elections. Nobody really cares about this, to be honest with you, outside of political junkies and media bubbles. Obviously, you've got some Reform branches effectively closing down, though these are all run by interim people, and to be honest with you, I have my doubts that they're going to be closed down for very long, because the Reform team seem incredibly good at keeping these branches going, from what I can tell. And you've also got branches coming out in support of the party as well. It's not like every Reform branch is closing down. Given we've got 400, and I think I've seen 5 or 6 openly saying that they're closing down, yeah, I think Reform are going to be mostly okay. Anyway, naturally, Reform were asked about this whole case, and so here is Richard Tice on Talk TV talking about the whole drama, and it goes about as you'd expect. He just avoids the question.
Richard Tice, final question before I go. Rupert Lowe, will he be ever welcomed back into the Reform fold?
Let's wait and see what the investigations
what politicians
say.
answer? You're not meant to. People don't like those politicians answering, hiding behind reports.
I've been brutally honest and clear with you.
I mean, reality of the situation is that no, he's probably not coming back. But as I say, it's just standard procedure for when investigations are going on. You don't make comments like this. It's basic stuff. And as Henry Bolton pointed out, Rupert Lowe's gone the complete opposite direction, and I think it's been a really bad move from Rupert Lowe's part.
I mean, look. We're pushing on, we're going up in the polls, let's see what happens. I can't predict every event in the future.
So you're leaving the door open to a possible return? See, if you want to play if you want to do the politician's game, I'll do the journalist game.
Absolutely, and you're brilliant at it. Look, we're pushing on, who knows?
Yep, Rupert Lowe probably not coming back, but he can't say that, and obviously, the drama came up, as I said. There's nothing he could really comment on. Reform just want to talk about policy and get elected. That's all they want to do at this point. Who is stopping them doing that? Rupert Lowe. To what end? God knows. Is it a new party? I doubt they'll get the funding for it, to be quite honest. Is it to join the Tories? That would be the funniest outcome. No, I think Rupert Lowe just has a history of effectively being a bit bullheaded, which is perfectly fine in business, but at the end of the day, if you're part of a political team, you can't be bullheaded in public like this. Basic stuff. Anyway, I could move on in this video to other parts of this whole Lowe thing where people are saying that he's botting his likes, and to be honest, from these screenshots they don't exactly look great, but I'm not too bothered about this whole conversation. Is he botting likes? I don't know. It's very odd to get 2,500 likes in 50 seconds of posting a tweet with 84 views. However, I don't know, are these faked? Are these just a front-end, back-end issue? I don't know. I'd need to see more than one screenshot to really have a conclusive say on it. But I will say, if he has been botting his own likes, that is pretty substantial for the whole Rupert Lowe popularity argument. It will turn out that he's not actually as popular as he said he was, even on Twitter. There's way more to that story, but I don't really care. If you want evidence that Rupert Lowe's popularity is way overblown, just look at the polls. Reform is still going up in them. This Lowe stuff has hardly affected them. That should really tell you something about political junkie bubbles. As for how he's acted, I've been incredibly disappointed over the past 2 weeks, is all I can say, as you probably already know. In terms of what these texts tell us, nothing more than what we already knew. Nobody really denied that there was some political opportunism here. The problem is, as I say, is that even if it was politically opportunistic, it's actually nothing outside of standard procedure for any political party to suspend a whip during an investigation. The only part, as I say, that still needs to be squared in my mind here is the whole Zaya Yusuf accusations of threats. And it's another part of the story where, frankly, the facts keep changing. Oh, Rupert Lowe threatened to slash his throat. No, that was a rumour. That was beat down by Lowe in the Dan Wootton interview. And then people are saying Nigel Farage lied when he said to Lee Anderson that he'd slit the party's throats. That may have been a misquote. It may have been another time he said it. I don't know. There's a lot of facts about this story that we don't know. Honestly, in the last 2 weeks, we really haven't been given any more information on what's actually going on with this investigation and what's actually going on within the Reform Party. Reform are obviously trying to keep it as hush-hush as they can. Rupert Lowe's mouthing off, as I say, but I've basically not been able to trust a word he said after the whole KC issue. And now that I am seeing that his own staff are leaking to the BBC with the same nonsense that he had to be corrected on, oh, the KC's horrified, it's not true. You know, what am I supposed to glean from this? This is all coming from an inconsistent narrator. And nobody seems to have noticed. And obviously, reform drama is going to be something I naturally cover. I'm a reform activist at the end of the day. But I'm really not seeing any of these silver bullets I'm being told are all over the place. Like, yeah, Farage was really annoyed at Lowe. That was pretty obvious. You can't then jump to, oh, this is all trumped up charges and they lied about him. We don't know that yet. We still don't know that. As I say, this is Rupert Lowe making a narrative. It might be true. I have my doubts given how inconsistent he is. We know a lot of people who have axes to grind with Farage are also trying to get their attacks in at the same time. And this whole narrative that Farage has kicked useful people out, etc., etc. Again, I've gone through this in an old video. Most of these people seem to have shot themselves in the foot in the past, and Farage has basically had no choice. Now, in some cases it may be politically opportunistic, sure, but people who've kept their nose clean, like Douglas Carswell, you know, he's about the only one you could say that Farage couldn't get rid of, but we know they didn't like each other. So what happened there? Well, Carswell kept on as a UKIP MP for some years, and then took a step back because he wasn't beating Farage. That's typically what happens with people that Farage doesn't want about, who've kept their nose clean. This is also why I'm somewhat on the side of maybe there's a bit more to this than Rupert Lowe is letting on. Rupert Lowe is not going to go up and, after denying the allegations, basically say, yeah, the allegations are true, by the way, is he? No, he's going to have to double down on all this, and I think a lot more people need to be sceptical. That has been my only point in all these videos, and I'm having to reiterate it, because, I don't know, I feel like I'm one of the only people noticing, and I don't think that's a good thing. Anyway, I think once again that's enough drama for today. If you're interested in more general news, don't worry, Laughing at the Guardian will return tomorrow, where I have guests on to talk about things that the Guardian want to talk about, so, you know, be on my channel 8 PM tomorrow. If you want to help out the channel, subscribe, become a member, all that good stuff. I don't need to tell you how all that works. I think you get the idea with this drama at this point. I'll keep this under half an hour, right? With that, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.